The wealthiest place on this planet is not the oil fields of the Middle East. It is not the diamond mines of South Africa. It is not the gold reserves of any central bank. The wealthiest place on earth is the cemetery, because buried in the ground are businesses that were never started, books that were never written, inventions that were never created, and destinies that were never fulfilled. And do you know why they are there? Because the people who carried them spent their entire lives building a reputation instead of building capacity. They spent their time managing perception instead of developing competence. They were so busy making noise they never developed substance. Let me submit to you that the greatest work you will ever do will happen in complete silence. Not secrecy, but silence. There is a difference. Secrecy hides from accountability. Silence refuses distraction. Secrecy fears exposure. Silence protects focus. The manufacturer never announces what he is building while he is still in the factory. He waits until the product is complete, tested, and ready for market. But we have become a generation that announces the blueprint before we have even cleared the construction site. You see, when a seed is planted in the ground, it does not send up a sign that says future tree coming soon. It does not live stream its germination process. It does not post updates about how hard it is working beneath the soil. It simply submits to the process of breaking, dying, reorganizing, and emerging. And by the time you see the plant above ground, the real work has already been done in secret. The root system is established. The foundation is set. The infrastructure is in place. This is where most people abort their future. They want the harvest, but they refuse the hidden season. They want the fruit, but they reject the burial. They want the promotion, but they will not endure the preparation. And so they spend their lives starting things they never finish, announcing things they never build, and promising things they never deliver. Not because they lack talent, but because they lack discipline. Not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack character. Not because they lack resources, but because they lack the capacity to work where no one is watching, where purpose is not known. Abuse is inevitable. And the greatest abuse in this generation is the abuse of potential through premature exposure. We have confused announcement with accomplishment. We have confused visibility with value. We have confused followers with fruit. And as a result, we are building audiences instead of building ourselves. We are building platforms instead of building competence. We are building noise instead of building substance. Let me tell you something about silence. Silence is not the absence of activity. It is the presence of focus. Silence is not about hiding from the world. It is about hiding from distraction. When a woman is pregnant, she does not gather a crowd every day to announce that she is still pregnant. The baby is developing in silence. The cells are multiplying in secret. The organs are forming in privacy. And when the time is complete, the baby comes forth fully formed, fully developed, and ready to breathe on its own. But imagine if she tried to give birth in the 3rd month because she was tired of waiting. What comes out would not be ready. What comes out would not survive. What comes out would need machines and intervention and emergency care just to stay alive. This is what happens when you refuse to build yourself silently. You give birth to premature ideas. You release unfinished products. You announce incomplete assignments. And then you wonder why nothing survives. You wonder why nothing lasts. You wonder why everything you touch requires constant maintenance, constant explanation, constant defense. It is because it was never finished in the secret place. It was never completed in the silence. Now, the manufacturer knows something that we have forgotten. He knows that the quality of a product is directly connected to the integrity of the process. You cannot rush a process and expect a quality product. You cannot skip steps and expect structural integrity. You cannot violate principles and expect sustainable success. The laws that govern manufacturing are the same laws that govern life. If you want a product that lasts, you must respect the process. If you want a life that endures, you must honor the seasons. Let me give you the first principle. Your development must exceed your display. In other words, what you are building on the inside must always be greater than what you are showing on the outside. A tree that grows too fast produces weak wood. It looks impressive from a distance, but it has no strength. The moment a storm comes, it breaks. But a tree that grows slowly in the right conditions develops dense wood, deep roots, and structural integrity. When the storm comes, it bends, but it does not break. It survives because it was built to last, not built to impress. Most people are building to impress. They are designing their lives for an audience instead of for durability. They are making decisions based on what looks good, not what works well. They are choosing the house they cannot afford, the car they do not need, the lifestyle they cannot sustain, all because they are addicted to the appearance of success. But appearance without foundation is called a facade, and every facade eventually cracks. The second principle is this: your private discipline determines your public success. What you do when no one is watching will determine what you become when everyone is watching. Character is not built on a stage. It is built in a room. Competence is not developed in front of a camera. It is developed in front of a mirror. Every great leader you have ever admired spent years in obscurity before they stood in authority. Every great invention you have ever used went through thousands of failed experiments before it went to market. Every great achievement you have ever witnessed was preceded by countless hours of invisible work. But we do not want to hear that. We want the microwave version of success. We want the instant coffee version of mastery. We want to skip the process and jump to the platform. And so we study the stage, but we ignore the backstage. We study the speech, but we ignore the preparation. We study the breakthrough, but we ignore the years of breaking. And then we wonder why we cannot replicate the results. Let me tell you what happens in silence. In silence, you discover who you really are. You confront the truth about your habits. You face the reality of your discipline. You deal with the gap between your potential and your practice. And this is why most people avoid silence. They avoid being alone with themselves. They avoid being alone with their thoughts. They avoid being alone with their failures. Because in silence, you cannot lie to yourself. In silence, you cannot perform for yourself. In silence, you cannot hide from yourself. A sculptor does not create a masterpiece in front of a crowd. He goes into his workshop alone and chips away at the stone for months. Every strike of the hammer is intentional. Every removal of excess is calculated. Every angle is considered. And no one sees this process. No one applauds this work. No one validates this effort. He is building, refining, and perfecting in complete obscurity. And when the sculpture is finally ready, when the form is finally clear, then he unveils it to the public. But by the time they see it, the real work is already done. This is the third principle. Build your capacity in private so you can handle opportunity in public. Most people pray for opportunity, but they have no capacity to manage it. They pray for promotion, but they have no character to sustain it. They pray for influence, but they have no integrity to steward it. And so when the opportunity comes, they collapse under the weight of it. Not because the opportunity was wrong, but because they were not ready. They wanted the position, but they were not prepared for the responsibility. They wanted the platform, but they were not prepared for the pressure. You see, opportunity does not create capacity. It reveals it. Promotion does not build character. It exposes it. Influence does not develop integrity. It tests it. And if you have not done the work in private, you will not survive the exposure in public. This is why so many people rise fast and fall faster. They got the opportunity before they got the preparation. They got the platform before they got the foundation. They got the audience before they got the message. The fourth principle is about stewardship. You must learn to manage the small before you are trusted with the great. This is a non-negotiable law. The person who cannot manage $100 will not be able to manage $1 million. The person who cannot manage one employee will not be able to manage 100 employees. The person who cannot manage 1 hour will not be able to manage a day. But we want to skip the small We want to despise the day of small beginnings. We want to reject the training ground and jump straight to the battlefield. Let me tell you a story. There was a young man who wanted to become a master craftsman. He went to the greatest craftsman in the city and asked to be his apprentice. The master agreed, but he gave him only one task. Every day for a year, the young man had to sharpen the tools. That was all. He was not allowed to create anything. He was not allowed to touch any projects. He was only permitted to sharpen the tools. Day after day, week after week, month after month, he sharpened the tools, and he grew frustrated. He thought he was wasting time. He thought he was being overlooked. He thought his talent was being buried. But what he did not understand was this. The master was not teaching him how to sharpen tools. He was teaching him precision. He was teaching him patience. He was teaching him attention to detail. He was teaching him that excellence is not about talent. It is about discipline. And by the time the year was over, the young man had developed a level of focus that most craftsmen never achieve. His hands were steady. His eye was trained. His patience was proven. And when the master finally allowed him to create, everything he made was extraordinary. Not because he had more talent than others, but because he had been disciplined in the small things. This is what happens in silence. You develop mastery of the fundamentals. You sharpen your tools. You refine your process. You eliminate waste. You increase efficiency. You build habits that compound. And when the opportunity comes, you are ready. Not hoping to be ready. Not trying to get ready, but already ready. Because the work was done in advance, in private, in silence. Now let me interrupt what I am saying and tell you something. The time you are wasting right now explaining your plans to people who cannot help you, you could be using to execute those plans. The energy you are spending trying to convince people of your vision, you could be spending to build your vision. The focus you are giving to managing other people's opinions, you could be giving to mastering your craft. You do not need more cheerleaders. You need more discipline. You do not need more motivation. You need more revelation. You do not need more people to believe in you. You need to believe in the process enough to stay faithful to it when no one is watching. Now let me show you how to build yourself silently. The fifth principle is this: protect your process from public opinion. The moment you open your process to the scrutiny of people who do not understand your assignment, you give them the power to abort it. Not everyone deserves access to your becoming. Not everyone has earned the right to speak into your development. Not everyone can see what you are building. And if you let the wrong voices into your process, they will contaminate it with their limitations, their fears, their unbelief, and their misunderstanding. When Noah was building the ark, he did not hold community meetings to get feedback. He did not take a poll to see if people agreed with his plans. He did not adjust his blueprint based on popular opinion. He received an assignment from his manufacturer, and he built according to the specifications, not according to the spectators. And while everyone else was laughing at him, he was working. While everyone else was mocking him, he was measuring. While everyone else was questioning him, he was constructing. And when the flood came, his faithfulness to the process in silence became his family's salvation in public. Here is what you need to understand. The people who criticize your process will expect access to your product. The people who mock your preparation will expect participation in your promotion. The people who doubted your potential will expect benefit from your productivity. But you must establish boundaries. You must protect what you are building. You must guard what you are becoming. Because not everyone who is around you is for you. Not everyone who knows you understands you. Not everyone who sees you supports you. Silence, therefore, is not just about sound. It is about strategy. It is about protecting your focus from distraction. It is about protecting your energy from draining relationships. It is about protecting your vision from contamination. It is about protecting your timeline from other people's opinions about when you should be finished. The manufacturer does not rush the product because the customer is impatient. He releases the product when it is ready, not when it is requested. The sixth principle is understanding that your obscurity is your preparation. Stop resenting the season you are in. Stop despising the place where no one knows your name. Stop being frustrated by the room where there is no applause. That room is not your prison. It is your laboratory. That season is not your punishment. It is your protection. You are being prepared for something that requires a version of you that does not exist yet. And the only way to become that version is to submit to the process, trust the timing, and work in silence. There was a farmer who planted an orchard, and every day people would walk by and see nothing. They would see dirt. They would see time passing. They would see expense, but they would see no fruit. And they would ask him, "Why are you wasting time and money on land that produces nothing?" But the farmer did not respond. He just kept watering. He kept fertilizing. He kept pruning. He kept believing. And after several years, the trees began to produce. And once they started, they did not stop. Year after year, a harvest after harvest. The orchard produced more than the farmer could even consume. But it only happened because he was willing to invest in what no one else could see. He was willing to labor when there was no applause. He was willing to stay faithful when there was no fruit. This is the test of maturity. Can you stay committed to the process when no one is celebrating your progress? Can you stay disciplined when no one is monitoring your behavior? Can you stay focused when no one is applauding your effort? Because the person who needs external validation to stay consistent will quit the moment the validation stops. But the person who is internally driven by purpose will keep going, whether anyone notices or not. The seventh principle, and listen carefully, you are not building for applause. You are building for impact. Applause is temporary. Impact is permanent. Applause makes you feel good. Impact makes you effective. Applause feeds your ego. Impact fulfills your assignment. And if you build your life chasing applause, you will spend your whole life performing instead of producing. You will spend your whole life managing perception instead of developing competence. You will spend your whole life trying to be seen instead of trying to be significant. Let me submit to you, the most powerful people in the world are not the most visible. The most influential people in the world are not the most famous. The wealthiest people in the world are not the most celebrated. Because real power operates in silence. Real influence works behind the scenes. Real wealth is built in private. The CEO is not on the stage every day, but his decisions affect millions. The engineer is not on camera, but his designs change the world. The teacher is not celebrated, but her students become leaders. The parent is not applauded, but their children carry their values into the next generation. Stop measuring your value by your visibility. Stop measuring your progress by your popularity. Stop measuring your success by your social media following. Those are metrics of attention, not metrics of accomplishment. You can have 1 million followers and still be unfulfilled. You can have 1 million likes and still be unproductive. You can have 1 million views and still be living below your potential. Because numbers do not equal impact. Noise does not equal substance. Visibility does not equal value. Now, here is the activation. Here is what you must do starting today. First, identify the one area of your life where you have been performing instead of producing. Where have you been making noise instead of making progress? Where have you been managing perception instead of developing skill? Where have you been building an audience instead of building capacity? Write it down. Confront it. Commit to change it. Second, create a 90-day period of intentional silence. Not isolation, but intentionality. Stop announcing what you are going to do. Stop posting about what you are working on. Stop updating people about your progress. Just work. Just build. Just develop. Just execute. And at the end of 90 days, let your results speak. Let your product announce itself. Let your progress be undeniable. Third, establish a daily discipline that no one sees. Something that builds your capacity. Something that sharpens your skill. Something that deepens your understanding. It could be reading for 1 hour before anyone in your house wakes up. It could be studying your industry for 30 minutes before you check your phone. It could be exercising your body, expanding your mind, or enriching your spirit. But it must be consistent. It must be private. It must be non-negotiable, because the habits you build in private will determine the life you live in public. Fourth, audit your relationships. Who has access to your process? Who speaks into your decisions? Who influences your thinking? And ask yourself, have they earned that access? Are they qualified to guide you? Are they living the life you want to live? Because if you are taking advice from people who have never done what you are trying to do, you are sabotaging your own future. Proximity does not equal qualification. Familiarity does not equal authority. Just because someone is close to you does not mean they should be counseling you. Fifth, set a standard for completion from this day forward. You do not announce anything until it is finished. You do not promise anything until you have proven you can deliver it. You do not commit to anything until you have counted the cost. Because your word must mean something. Your integrity must be intact. Your character must be consistent. And the only way to build that kind of reputation is to become someone who finishes what they start, delivers what they promise, and honors what they commit to. Let me prophesy over your life right now. The season of noise is over. The season of substance is beginning. What you are about to build in the next 12 months will not look impressive to people who measure success by visibility, but it will be structurally sound. It will be spiritually aligned. It will be practically sustainable. And it will outlast everything that was built on hype, built on trends, built on shortcuts, and built on applause. You are entering a season where your obscurity is your advantage, where your silence is your strength, where your privacy is your protection. The people who are watching you right now, expecting you to fail, do not understand that you are not performing for them anymore. You are not building for their approval. You are not working for their validation. You are answering to a higher standard. You are building according to a greater blueprint. You are fulfilling an assignment that was given to you before you were born. The pain you have been through was not punishment. It was preparation. The rejection you have experienced was not abandonment. It was refinement. The delay you have endured was not denial. It was development. And everything that tried to destroy you was actually assigned to develop you. But you must stop resenting the process. You must stop rushing the timing. You must stop resisting the pressure, because pressure does not break you. It reveals what you are made of. And if you are made of the right material, pressure will not destroy you. It will define you. Now hear me clearly. You were not created to be average. You were not designed to be mediocre. You were not manufactured to be ordinary. You were born with an assignment that only you can fulfill. You were given a blueprint that only you can execute. You were equipped with a combination of gifts, experiences, and perspectives that only you possess. And the world does not need another copy. It needs the original. It needs you, fully developed, fully expressed, fully delivered. But you will never become that person in public. You will only become that person in private. You will only discover that person in silence. You will only develop that person through discipline. And when the time is complete, when the work is finished, when the product is ready, then you will emerge, not to perform, but to produce, not to impress, but to impact, not to be seen, but to be significant. So here is your assignment. Build yourself silently. Develop yourself consistently. Refine yourself intentionally. Strengthen yourself privately. And when the moment comes for you to be revealed, the world will not question your qualifications. They will not doubt your capabilities. They will not challenge your authority. Because what you built in secret will speak louder than anything you could say in public. Stop explaining yourself to people who are not equipped to understand you. Stop defending your vision to people who do not have the capacity to see it. Stop justifying your process to people who have never committed to a process. Just build, just work, just focus, just finish. And let your life become the evidence of what happens when someone submits to the process. Trust the timing. and honors the blueprint they were given. The time is now. The season is here. The assignment is clear. Build yourself silently. Trust the process completely. Honor the manufacturer intentionally. Finish what you start consistently. And die empty deliberately. This is not optional. This is your design. This is your dominion. This is your destiny. Now go build it.